can't help it. It makes a really cool sound. The baits of the day. Bomber 7A. And ow. A very dangerous chartreuse blackback rattle trap. You're probably wondering, why 2 baits? Well, again, we get into a new chapter of Simplify Your Fishing. That's why. Are you ready to run a gun? It's time for blast off. Let's go. Hey guys, Todd here with you. Welcome back to Bassin 101, where I try to make fishing simple for everybody. This whole series of Simplify Your Fishing covers a lot of different topics. I mean, from baits to techniques to all kinds of stuff. I'm going to start one today that I don't know how many videos this is going to take, because I want to keep them short, but I also want to get you guys to thinking a little bit about things. So, crankbaits. So you're trying to go through your stuff, trying to figure out what to keep, maybe what to put on the back burner, hang up an overstock, whatever you're going to do. Crankbaits. Good grief, do we all have crankbaits? Are you as guilty as I am? I bet you are. I bet you me hooking myself again on this rattle trap, you probably do. That's a dangerous toy right there. Anyway, that's why I'm holding this one. See? Just ain't got no hooks. Now, crankbaits. There's something I have learned over the years as far as fishing crankbaits. That's probably the most important aspect of fishing crankbaits. And it's something that I've been pushing in this whole entire, simplify your fishing topic over and over and over and over again. Do you pay attention to how you fish? I mean, do you watch how you retrieve certain crankbaits? Do you watch how you, the different combos that you throw crankbaits on, because maybe they're just easier to throw on those combos, different things like that. At the same time, are there certain combos that you throw for crankbaits that you're just not that crazy about trying to throw? So if that's an issue, listen to yourself. So when it comes to choosing crankbaits, the main thing that you have to think of is, how do you fish? Are you a burner? I mean, do you like to chucking things out there and crankbait as fast as you can get it down? Then you're going to be better off with like a lipless crankbait, especially if you're fishing shallow water a lot. You're going to be better off fishing like shad wraps, bomber fat-free shads, 7As, although I wouldn't overpower this one too much. But I mean, that's something you have to consider. Or are you the kind of guy that, once you get it out there, do you just kind of slow crank, stop, pause, kind of finesse a bait, this, that, the other? Then you might be able to get away with throwing the stuff that has the wide wobble. That way you get a lot of vibration. You can feel it better. You can feel what's going on with that bait, rather than having one just goes, I mean, this one right here, sometimes it's hard to feel. If you burn this bomber too fast, it's hard to feel. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, if you fish it slow, kind of maybe like you're kind of worming it, and you pull it along, pause it, You know, let it dive, and it floats up pretty quick. You know, let it go. You know, then you can choose crankbaits that have a completely different vibration pattern to them than a guy who burns them. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a slow fisherman and you got a bait that's got a very narrow wobble, let's say a rattle trap, maybe even a shad wrap. Although I can feel a shad wrap if I'm fishing it slow, or other things like that. You're probably not going to be as happy with that bait. But if you're a burner, that'll be okay. You'll be able to feel them. So if you crank fast, you want baits that have the least amount of pull. If you fish slow, you can get away with the baits that have more pull, to where you're feeling better. I mean, I got all these back here. You know, some of these, I'm sure some of you guys probably wonder what I have back here on this wall. Up here is a couple of old Bagleys. One's a long cast and one's a dredge, which was the bait of the day a while back. I got a couple of Storm Magworts. Another Bagley B3. I've got a couple of Pose 200s. And the secret weapon. The original Pose Nervous Miracle. Oh, that's an awesome bait. Especially when you modify them. There's just all different kinds of baits. Me, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to burn a crankbait. I'm more of a slower guy. You know, I kind of like to finesse it and everything else. But I can still throw these. And I have no issue with these because I know I can speed up. At the same time, I like to worm them. And I'm also I'm thinking about coming up with a way of actually making these weedless. So I can throw these in places that nobody throws these at. If I decide to do something like that, I will definitely pass that on to you guys. So don't worry about that. But just wanted to open this video. There's going to be a lot of topics as far as these crankbaits go. I mean, you got plastic, you got balsa, you got cedar, you got, you know, and they all have their different vibrations. Everything's got its own sound. Everything has its own feel. You know, you also got to think too, are you a shallow fisherman or are you a deep fisherman? You know, there's a lot of Japanese baits out there. They're absolutely incredible. You know, and some guy, and they're actually trying to make it to where they're not that hard to crank, you know. And so some of the Japanese stuff's pretty cool because it kind of balances in between a cranker versus a slow cranker. And that's just something you just kind of have to play around with. But you really need to listen to yourself and be honest with yourself and think, okay, well, you know, what crankbaits have I caught my most fish on? And then take those and put them, you know, put them on the kitchen table or something. Just kind of separate them. So, okay, I'm going to put all these baits up here, colors, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to put all these baits up here that I catch most of my bass on. And then look at those baits and see if there's not a similarity in them. I bet you there is. I can almost bet you that I won't stick myself on this crankbait, that there is a similarity in them. Either they run a particular depth, maybe there's a particular movement to them, maybe some rattle, maybe some don't. Believe it or not, to me personally, you know, if you ever listen to recordings of a rattle underwater, you can't tell where it is because, you know, sound travels a mile a second underwater. Bass really can't. They can hear it, but unless it's in their lateral line, they really don't know where that rattling sound's coming from. At least from the tests that I've read and watched. But, you know, some guys swear by rattles. Some guys swear by silent crankbaits. Although a silent crankbait still rattles, like I've shown you before in the past videos, split rings and hooks rattle. So regardless, even a silent crankbait is going to have a very faint rattle to it. Again, I think the rattle thing or the non-rattle thing is the fisherman. I really, really do. You You know, some guys, if they just crank and crank and crank and crank and crank and crank and crank, a lot of those guys I've noticed over the years prefer the baits that don't rattle. And the guys that are more finessey will pause, jerk, pause, pull it, slackline it, everything else, like the rattle. Because you figure you're going, not just a consistent, see what I mean? So, depends on you. This is my opening statement, my opening argument, Your Honor, on the whole crankbait thing. Just want to throw it out there and let you guys know where the next series of the Simplify Your Fishing is coming from. It's going to be kind of interesting, I think. So, stay tuned for the next ones to come up. Be sure to tell your buddies about the channel. We're starting to grow a little bit. I love that. I hear from you guys all the time. You know, between texts and emails and comments and things like that. I think it's great. Love talking to you guys. It's awesome. So let's kind of keep this in mind a little bit. Let's kind of go with the flow here, see where we're going to go. And again, like I said, get your stuff out, look at it, see if there's a pattern of what's going on here. So until next time, you guys have tight lines. May the Father bless you and keep you in Yeshua's name. And as always, fish on.